Oh yes, this is the Hardcore Marketing Show. I'm Casey Cheshire, your host for this epic journey. And today's show, sponsored by Cheshire Impact, on a mission to help people maximize their use of Pardot and Salesforce. CheshireImpact.com. Bam. Hey everyone. Before we get started with the show, I'm excited to announce two things. First is that my book, Marketing Automation Unleashed, is now live on Amazon. So go get it. The second thing is we have a new sponsor, Qualified.com. I'm going to tell you about them in the next couple seconds here, and also how you can get a free copy of my book thanks to them. So who are these people? Well, Qualified is the #1 live chat and chatbot platform for Salesforce and Pardot. Sales reps can have real-time, personalized conversations with who? Your hottest website visitors. So I want you to know, I don't just partner with anyone. I genuinely love these guys. And the platform, we use it at my company. Our sales team loves it. We've closed a lot of deals based on it, had a lot of great conversations with prospects too. So, a lot of marketing these days is what? Hurry up and wait, right? Fill out this form. And then if we pass you over to sales, maybe you'll swap 6 emails with them to find a good time to talk. But what if a prospect is doing research right now and they would chat now? Why not give them the opportunity? So the best part is your company actually decides what leads are worth a live chat. There's a lot of noise out there. You don't want to talk to everyone. So Qualified actually connects to Salesforce and Pardot, and it's able to pull in lead and contact information so you can specifically know if you're talking to a VIP, a VP, a decision maker. It's really kind of like magic. Now, if you don't know who someone is, well, what happens then, Casey? Well, that's when the bots come in handy. Chat bots can then ask questions to further qualify a lead, find out if maybe this is someone you do want to talk to. And they can book meetings while your sales team is out. And they can wake up the next morning with a bunch of meetings on their calendar. Now, here's the promo. If you are a company that wants to give your sales team this ability, right, to be able to talk to decision makers right when they're on your website, do this. Go to qualified.com and start a chat, right? They use their own tool, of course. Start a chat. Tell them that Casey sent you. If you have Salesforce Pardot, when you schedule and then do a demo, they will send you a free copy of my book, Marketing Automation Unleashed. Not bad, right? Well, it's only while supplies last. So hop on this thing today. And that's it for sponsors. Let's get to the show. A little tiny click of a button and bam, now we're live. We're streaming across the airways.
Fabulous.
And this is going to be good. So
okay.
Thank you all for joining me. This is going to be so much fun. I can't wait to introduce you to our guest today. She is an accomplished marketing leader. And we actually work together. Our teams work together. And that's how we met and we're connected. And we had a great chance to hang out in San Fran the other day. And I got to tell you, her background spans all across marketing, from the interactive side, demand, marketing automation, strategic planning, research, the creative side, media planning, like all the things, and Agile marketing is for sure something we're going to talk about. She is the Director of Marketing Operations at Vertex, Nicole Davidson. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me.
This is going to be a wild time. I know we started out going like, what will we talk about? And then we came out of it with like, there's so many things I want to ask you about. And this is our marketing leadership series. And so what we want to do is start the show out the way we start every show. I'm going to pass you this thing. Hold on a second. It's really heavy. Okay, here it is. Here it is.
Oh, that's awesome.
Thor's
it looks like
hammer.
Thor's hammer.
It is. It's Thor's hammer. Now,
awesome.
Go ahead. There you go. You got it?
Yep.
All right. Perfect. It's heavy.
We're going to smash it.
Yeah. So take that and smash some kind of marketing myth, bogus strategy, misconception that maybe just drives you bonkers.
Well, as hopefully most of the people listening to this podcast know, that marketing is always about putting out fires. We're always busy. We're always doing multiple things, and our focus could be on any one of a variety of topics at any given time. And one of the things that people really need to understand is the concept of multitasking. Everybody thinks I can do 8 things at one time and I'm going to be successful at all of them and I'm going to get them done. And really, there isn't any such thing as multitasking. Your brain physically really cannot do that.
Yeah, I know for sure. I can't do anything other than talk to you on this podcast or it goes south quick. Yeah. So tell me, we all think I mean, is that a myth that you can multitask?
I think it is across multiple industries, across everyone. Even as a mom, I mean, I think I can multitask and pay attention and provide the same level of detail and attention to all of the different aspects of everything that we have to do in everyday life. And at the end of the day, your brain only accommodates so much information. We refer to it as a sponge with
Yeah.
water, and eventually the sponge gets full and the water just kind of overflows and starts bouncing off of it. So
Right.
you can really only do so much at one time. So earlier this year, we put a process in place for my team within Vertex that we are really focused on agile marketing.
Oh, awesome.
And I let the team really run how they thought they wanted to introduce this concept into our group and determine how many works in progress they wanted to have, what the backlog looked like, what the different channels might look like. If we give something to a different group or team, does it go into a hold pattern? Does it go into a what we call the pen? How does something get finished and published when we're actually done with it? And really, the team over the course of the year, last year, 2019. Really owned it, and they were in and
Wow.
out of my office every day with their post-it notes, and they were constantly updating the board. Actually, I don't know if you can see it behind me, but that's our
Yeah.
Kanban board. It's like 8 feet by
Oh,
10 feet.
sick. Yeah, and so for those of you listening, you've got it mapped out with looks like blue divider tape, and there
Yep.
are stickies. What are the what do the columns mean?
So the columns at the top, and I'm going to go with their backlog, which is your standard agile. So you have your
Okay.
backlog, your work in progress. We have a hold, as I referred to earlier. Emergencies come up. You've started something, somebody comes in and says, this has to be done today. So you put what you're doing on the hold column and you put a new sticky in for the work in progress. So at any time, you only have 4 things that you're working on.
Wow.
When you finish that work in progress, you move it into a review or a done state, and then you take the hold back and put it into work in progress. So it's a pretty easy process, very easy concept. The rigor around making sure that you apply those practices in everyday use is really what was hard for the team, to make sure they only did 4 things at one time. Because I don't know about how your office is set up, but we have a very open office concept, and people can walk up at any time and ask questions and send you down a rabbit hole. So it was very
Yeah,
hard for them to get into the cadence of, let me stop what I'm doing, put my post-it note in, and then readjust my schedule and my time.
totally. I mean, how many times are you at a meeting and then
Hmm.
people jump in and they're going to be like armchair marketers, and they're like, "Hey,
Yes, exactly.
how about we do that? Oh, I have an idea for you."
Yeah.
Stop everything, right? Or
Yep.
worse is like the CEO or someone who's like playing in a different playground. I was like, "Hey, I have an idea. How about we
Mhm.
shift focus here and do this?" You're like, "Oh."
But
Um,
what was nice about it, as a leader, I don't actually have that one-on-one time with my team. We did a
mm,
30-minute stand-up every day, 9 o'clock. I made the commitment to be there, to be present in that time, to listen. Everybody had 10 minutes. They went through what they had done the previous day, what they were going to work on that day, what blockers I needed to be made aware of so that they could escalate as needed. And the rest of the marketing function saw this happen. And one of my counterparts, who shares an office across the hallway from me, her team now does it. And she focuses on communications, which is obviously another branch of marketing,
sure.
internal and external. So we're talking PR, social media, corporate comms. And her board, if she's as hers is very color coded. Mine is all yellow mostly,
Rise it up.
um, but they've adopted that process as well, and it's given her visibility into what the team's doing. It helped her prioritize the work a little bit better. Things that she didn't know were going on, she now has visibility into. So it's really helped her team also get a lot more work done in a shorter amount of time and really focus on the priorities. And when you're
Right.
focused on goals and objectives, the priorities that come along with that are super important.
Focus on the goals and objectives. That makes sense. And it seems counterintuitive that you get more done by restricting to 4, but it
Hmm.
ends up happening because of that multitasking we shredded at the beginning. You're not doing multiple things at once. You're just kind of jumping around, and
Hmm.
that can be super distracting, get you
Yep.
off point. Um, wow. You mentioned the rigor is the hard part. And is that just getting everyone on the same page or making sure
Yes.
people are following the rules?
Yes, it's some people are very data oriented, some people are very digital oriented, some people like, obviously, it's a Kanban board. There are lots of tools that you could do
Yeah.
a digital Kanban board. We did paper. And the reason we did paper at first was to get them used to having to do it, because it's very easy to say you're going to do something, and
Yeah,
then your to-do list ends up being 6 things, 7 things, 8 things, just keeps growing. And
true.
if you're physically having to get up and put a post-it on a wall, it's stopping you from doing that extra thing and just adding it to your to-do list, and it helps you prioritize your day, and it helps you realize how much work and swirling you actually do within the course of a day.
I could see that being a real cool realization to like, oh wow, look, without all these rules in place, I would have been jumping around all over the place, but now
Yep.
not
And
anymore.
our productivity increased tremendously by
Wow.
applying this.
Wow, the productivity side. You mentioned that you let the team pick the different numbers, like the four.
hmm
Is that an industry best practice, or did everyone kind of just agree that that was like a good idea?
I don't know if it's an industry best practice. We adopted Agile, obviously Agile program management, into more Agile marketing. So we modified it a little bit. So I don't know if there is a best practice
Sure.
for us. It worked for the team. They picked four, and we decided we would see how that worked. Seemed to work well for everybody. I think some people have the capacity to do more things,
Yeah.
but it's not about doing more things. It's about getting those 4 things done before you
Hmm.
pick a fifth thing. So
Yeah.
so it was a little bit of a mind shift. I know I have a couple of team members who really like using like a Trello, and
Yeah.
couldn't understand why we had to get up and come into the room, and they were very annoyed by the whole concept. But it helped this particular individual realize also the amount of people that would come up to their desk and say, hey, can you do this for me? And that person would stop what they were doing, focus on whatever that immediate thing was, and really never get back to the original thing they were working on.
Right. How do you handle that now? You pass them a sticky pad and say, "Hey, write it out, and I'll get to
So
it," or
so we actually went to a digital Kanban board starting in January, because
okay.
we basically rolled this out in March of 2019. We went through the whole year, and now we are doing it in a digital fashion. We're actually using Smartsheet and not Trello for this, because of the additional features that Smartsheet offers as far as workflow and some project management that Trello didn't necessarily have for us. It just met our needs better.
That makes sense. I mean, because I could see like you can play around with a Trello, but if you really were getting serious about those extra details beyond
hmm
that cute app, then you might need some heavy lifting. That makes sense. So
Yep.
does that mean that the thing behind you right now is kind of like a memorial or like a
It is being phased out as they put their backlog items now into Smartsheet. Not all of the backlog items that are on the wall yet are in Smartsheet. We are only in on well the fourth week of January,
wow,
but we
yeah.
just rolled it out on the 6th of January.
Oh,
So we've
geez.
really only been live for about 3 weeks, 3.5 weeks on the new system. So I feel like another week or so the board will come down.
Makes sense. Or maybe you should just leave it or replace it with some nice artwork.
I think I might need some nice artwork
I
behind
think
me.
so. Yeah. It does make you look pretty cool though, with having that board behind you. Like we get stuff done here.
We got a lot of stuff done in 2019.
I believe it. I mean, I was half expecting someone probably during this interview to come behind you and put some sticky on the board and, you know,
And that was also interesting. I would have my door. I have an open door policy, and
sure,
if my door is closed, we have glass walls here, so I can see when they put their faces up against the wall. So actually, somebody might walk by and catch
sure.
my attention, but they will come in. They would have done that even while I was on the phone. They just do it quietly, and they leave.
Wow. That's cool.
Yeah.
That's really cool. Um, what are some of the tips you think about how you rolled it out with your team? Anything you recommend? It sounds like you did a lot of things right. Any key takeaways from the best way to implement this type of a system?
I think you have to do what works for your team. Every team
Mm,
is different, and the rows that come down the board, for us, based on the responsibilities that my operations team has, um, we deal with analytics and data. We deal with technology, the technology stack. We deal with, we're in charge of the platform for our corporate website. We do have some accountability from a content perspective. So the work behind me, the rows, they really are geared towards what my team does and the work that we have. And my counterpart across the way, her roles are very different than mine are, because she's
oh,
internal communications.
Got it. Because we had talked about the columns, but you're right. We haven't talked. So the rows are those like the big bucket areas of
Hmm.
the major key responsibilities, and then
Yeah. Yeah. And
yeah,
one of the things that the team wanted to do was put people's names there. And they very quickly realized that because we did an exercise in a conference room on a whiteboard. So we
okay,
whiteboarded the whole thing out first. And they realized if we put the people's names there, there's no overlap. So I have a database administrator and I have a marketing analytics person. My database administrator actually does a quarterly report on the health of my Pardot database,
sure.
how much, field completeness, for example. That is considered an analytics report.
Mm-hmm.
So that doesn't go under data work, that goes under the analytics bucket. So they very quickly realized there was overlap in what they were doing and that they couldn't assign a name for those individual columns, and they picked the column names ultimately.
Got it. And you could always tag the name if you want to. I could see, but that makes sense too, because that way you can see if you're all working on similar projects or similar, maybe there's some tie-ins.
And that was actually also one of the benefits to it. Believe it or not, we were able to have resources that were really strapped, 100% utilized. Have people come in and go, I have some bandwidth. I think I can accomplish that. So it gave people an opportunity to do work that they maybe normally wouldn't have had insight to step
Mm,
up and flex some muscles in different areas within the team. It relieved work off of somebody's shoulders that maybe was particularly strapped at a particular point in time. So I really think that it gave visibility around the work that we do. It gave people opportunities to step into other people's shoes for a little bit.
right.
Um, you know, it works the same way, honestly, with the communications group. We have internal and external, and you think those areas are very different. But if you're talking about a blog post and developing content for a blog post, a writer who's familiar with the business should be able to step up and help co-write a blog post,
For
even though
sure.
they're focused internally. So it gives you an opportunity to do something that you don't normally do in your day-to-day work.
Yeah. Yeah. I could even you put bounties out and people in the company be
Hmm.
like, oh, I could help with that. I could help with that.
Yeah,
Yeah. And then
absolutely.
I can see you as a manager can then look down on what your team is doing and better understand the lay of the land in terms
Hmm.
of how things are moving and where things might be stuck.
Hmm. And
Do
where I
you
need to get involved. Hmm.
sure? Do you do you mentioned the 30-minute stand up. Do you also do like um a planning meeting to figure out what you're doing on the next 2 weeks or anything like that, or is it more fluid?
It's more fluid. It's
Okay.
not true agile. We don't do a sprint planning session like the Monday for the upcoming 2 weeks. We
Sure.
don't, and that's the difference between true agile versus this approach to agile marketing. It's not time boxed,
Okay.
because you could have a project that takes a couple of weeks. And they're
Right.
not tied to user stories. So true agile is really tied to those stand-ups. You have the scrum master, you have those user stories, and then you're seeing production and development in real time, and you're testing along the way. This was really just a way for us to help get better productivity out of the team and get better organized and give me visibility into what they were doing.
Got it.
So it's
And that
it's
yeah.
modified. Yeah.
Modified. And but I think to your earlier point, like you build a system that works for your team. I love that you
Hmm.
had their buy-in, they're on a whiteboard, coming to the realization. I mean, you could just dictate everything, but they were coming to the realization that look, the best way is actually the functional area versus
Yeah.
my name on that
Yeah,
column.
and they figured it out. They had to walk the walk, so I figured they
Yeah.
needed to set it up. Having the team be autonomous is a really big thing for me. I
Yeah.
want to be able to empower them to make their own decisions, come to me when they need help, and really run with it. That they were hired to do their jobs and grow within those areas, and leverage each other, and then just escalate to me as needed. Um,
I
we
love
spend a
that.
lot of time together just because of the nature of the work. We have occasional outages within our CRM and marketing automation space, occasionally, and
Occasionally,
you'll
like
see
2 days ago.
occasionally things don't work as they need to,
Sure.
and I will have people sitting in my office on the floor with their shoes off and their laptops while we try to figure out what we're going to do come Monday when we come in and the system is still not functioning correctly.
Right.
Right, so it's a close group. um, and I hope that they have fun within the team.
Yeah.
And I think some of them really did think this was a fun approach to how to manage the work.
Right. Right. You mentioned empowering them. Do they then, in lieu of a 2-week time box planning, do you on your one-on-ones talk about what they should be focusing on, or do you just kind
Yes.
of, Yeah. How do you do that? What's your?
So everything we do, everything my team does really stems from our enterprise goals for the year,
Got it.
top down. And we align our work to marketing goals and objectives to support those enterprise goals. So we know what we need to focus on very clearly. And the one-on-ones that I have with them are now down to 30-minute one-on-ones instead of a 60-minute one-on-one.
Wow.
And we've been able to also come up with a formula that we pull the Kanban board up now. Again, this is newer. This is the
Yeah.
evolution of it, but we pull the Kanban board up in the meeting, and it doesn't take place in my office. It's in a conference room. We have a whiteboard, and they go through, again, it's really what I kind of focused on, what my blockers were, and what you need to know. And it's their
Wow.
top 3 or 4 things. And that's, so we took the concept of the stand-up, broke it down into individuals for that one-on-one time, and
Ah.
then dropped it to 30 minutes. And so far that seems to be working for everybody.
And has that then replaced the stand-up?
Yes.
Interesting. So you don't need everyone for 30 minutes. You just, once a
Nope.
week, you're doing that check-in,
Yep.
setting the things, and you're letting them fly.
Yep. And then we have a 1-hour weekly meeting with the whole team, but that's not necessarily to talk about work, although it could be. It's a very open time frame. It's about me providing them the information around what's going on in the organization so that they have those different lateral connection points. How is sales working? What happened? We just had our annual sales kickoff a couple weeks ago. So, what happened in that kickoff? What are we focused on? Did our audience change? Did our segments change? What are our core goals? So giving them that higher level information so that they understand the work that they're doing, how that ties back into the bigger organization. That's the
Right.
purpose of the hour meeting.
Wow. First of all, best boss ever, it sounds like. Are you hiring?
I am actually.
Okay, because if this Cheshire Impact thing doesn't work out, I'll have to give you a call. Wow. Wait, what are you hiring for? What kind of positions are you looking for?
I am looking for a technology specialist.
Okay.
So I have one on my team. We work very closely with IT. It's your standard operations, marketing operations. There are some systems that IT owns and we use, but for the most part, we have our own technology stack,
Mm-hmm.
and we have a core set of goals and priorities for the year, again, to support marketing.
Totally.
And we've identified the gaps that we have in the stack. We have identified some redundancies. We've identified areas where we don't have full adoption, and it's just too much work for one person. So we are hiring for a technology specialist.
And is there a location or is that remote?
We're actually in King of Prussia, Pennsylvania.
Got
It could potentially be remote for the right candidate.
it. You've heard it here, folks. You have to wait till the end to get the contact information. Well, this is, you brought up a really good point about that hour-long meeting to give your team information. And I think that kind of makes me think about data,
Mm-hmm.
data in the right hands, you can actually use it, but if you don't use it, you lose it. And there's a lot of talk in marketing about making data-driven decisions.
Yep.
What's your take on that? Are we actually doing that, or?
I would have to say that we are just starting to do that.
Okay.
To be honest, we have so much data, and everybody says that they want to make data-driven decisions, but I don't think people honestly know how to consume the data, what data points to look at, and then how to make those decisions coming from that. And they don't all tie things back to what is the business question that I'm trying to answer. So
Right.
what is the information that I need to look at to be able to make a decision or answer that question?
Yeah, it's like we did all this work we need to be data-driven, and we got all
Mm-hmm.
the data, and
Mm-hmm.
then it just sits there.
We have all these systems. Some of them don't talk to each other. So you have to
Yeah.
spend hours mining data, pulling it into an Excel file, and then it just gets sent around by email and nobody really ever looks at it. Or people look at, oh, I had 300 email opens and 300 email clicks, but you sent it to 10,000 people. So is that good or bad? And if it's bad, what are you going to do next time to make it better?
Yeah, like actually taking action on it. I mean, and
Mm-hmm.
there's so many times we bump into people who are measuring everything, and that's fine and dandy, except it takes so much time to do that. And then it's like one group I was working with, they were spending so much time using campaigns to track like email opens, clicks, and they were kind of forgetting about the conversions, and
Mm-hmm.
but all these different aspects
Yep.
of the email in the campaign tracking, doing all this manual work. And then I was asking them, like, what are you doing with this
Mm-hmm.
information once you have it? And they weren't doing anything, they were just
No.
tracking it.
because they were told they have to track it because
Ah,
everybody thinks data's super important, and data is super important, but different audiences require different levels of information. So
mm-hmm.
for example, last year we came up with a concept early in the year to create a data dictionary. So we actually just launched a new instance of Salesforce on the Lightning platform in June, and prior to that we were working very closely with sales, obviously,
Yeah.
and some of the sales reporting analysts and some of the marketing reporting analysts I noticed weren't connected in what they thought or how they were planning on running reports and creating dashboards.
Mm,
So normally your data dictionary is going to show you the actual data fields within a particular system and how they map between, I don't know, a Pardot and a Salesforce, or your financial system and Salesforce, so on and so forth. But I took the concept and applied it to metrics
mm,
so that we have a common dictionary between marketing and sales on how we're supposed to run our reports. For example, marketing sometimes likes to see number of opportunities created because we have a commitment, right? And
right.
the conversion rate between leads to op, right?
Totally.
That's a different metric than how sales is looking at opportunities and forecasting them using the close date. So marketing might use create date, sales might use close date. You're going to get a different report. And if your executives are in a room and weren't the ones running the reports, the data is going to look different and
Mm-hmm.
they're not going to understand why. And as everybody knows, shit does roll downhill. So you want to make sure that you can be as buttoned up as possible. So going into it, everybody's looking like for like.
Right. And I could easily see where marketing wants to know what's been created in the
Hmm.
opportunity. We were trying to, that's even better than, I've had conversations about the leads and MQLs. It's like opportunities created. We really care. And
We
sales is
do.
like, that's nice. But we get paid, we got to close these things. So we want
Hmm.
to see that. And I could easily see them getting mixed up, or
Hmm.
one's reported, not the other. And it gets on the same page when you have it in this
Yep.
data dictionary. Is this like a Word doc? Like what kind
So
of
right now it's an Excel file,
oh, interesting.
and it was a combination of our account services group, our sales operations group, and then our marketing operations group. And
Nice.
we call that phase one,
Okay.
and it outlines information from Salesforce, Pardot, which is our automation system, and then Google Analytics.
Okay.
Because we actually feed data from Google Analytics using a connector into Salesforce so that we can
Interesting.
actually pull the opportunity data associated to our AdWord campaigns back into our GA platform. So we wanted to make sure that that information was captured and everybody knew what the flow looked like. And it's the first tab, and then the second tab, believe it or not, nobody knows what to do with a lead source, who's supposed to use it, why it's important, and
Wow.
what the actual definition is. So the second tab of the dictionary is the lead sources that are in our Salesforce instance, who's supposed to use them, and when they're supposed to be applied.
You know what? I was literally having that conversation 5 minutes ago about.
It's so important.
So can you just preach to me about what should be in that tab? Um, what's your approach to that?
So everybody's got a different set of lead sources, obviously.
Yeah.
We, from a marketing perspective, everything that we put back into the system has a lead source. So
Hmm.
we try to be a little bit more higher level with the lead sources. So we're not using specific trade show names. We leave that to the campaign object,
Yeah.
right? So this is a trade show. This is an event. This is coming from you know an email. This is coming from social media. So they're higher level, but organizationally, our account services might be on the phone with a customer or customer support, and they may get a lead and they need to pass it to sales. So they'll create the lead in Salesforce, and they have their own set of lead sources that
Mm,
they'll apply, and then marketing knows what we should and shouldn't use. Partner channel is a huge area for us, and so we have a couple of different sources around referrals coming from our partners or
yeah.
other areas of that nature. So it really depends on the organization, but you have to make it custom to what works for you and what's going to make the most amount of sense.
I like that. Every group has their own sources and their own
Hmm.
list of sources. And I imagine you could even hide it so that they only see the ones they should be messing with.
You could, but we chose not to do that.
Interesting.
We did choose not to do that. So we are hopefully holding people somewhat accountable
Mm-hmm.
to be making the right decisions based on the information that they have been provided.
Nice. Do you lock that field down at any point?
So, um, yes. So we have the lead source from a marketing perspective. I have gone with a centralized approach to data. So I have a database administrator who is the only
Hmm.
person who can upload data into the system. We're
Okay.
actually going through an engagement for master data management with a
Mm,
consulting firm, and they also recommended more of a unified approach to data management than a decentralized approach. And so all of the information is funneled through this one person, and so this person is accountable to make sure that all of the right lead sources are in the files correctly. The forms on the website have the correct lead sources, so on and so forth. We're actually pulling lead source out of the URL string
yeah.
and passing that into a hidden field and then sending that over. I mean, that's
Hmm.
a little
Smart.
technical, but that is really what we're doing there. So we're trying to get very granular with where these leads are coming from, passing that information over, and then sending it to the lead record. I don't think that we've seen any instances of our inside sales team really changing those lead source values. And as the lead gets converted to the contact, it gets written to the contact record. What we did add is a most recent and an original, because you always want to know
Mm,
where the original lead came from. So when it gets converted to the contact, you can always go back and say, when you start talking about attribution and you're looking at first touch versus last touch,
hmm.
you may have a need to see that first lead source on that particular record or account. So we have original and then we have most recent. So a net new, obviously both will be the same value, but
Sure.
as people are engaging with our campaigns, if they're already a contact in the system, we're not creating a new lead. We're updating the record, updating the
Right.
lead source to most
Right.
recent. And
I
then that
like that.
actually gets written to the opportunity record.
Ah, gotcha. Gotcha. I like that. In hmm, that's I could see that that tab is priceless, right?
Yeah.
Getting on the same page with that, and then a weight is off your shoulders once you got it all kind of like laid out for people, and you're on the
hmm
same page. Any other tabs in that doc that stand out?
We have the work in progress tab. So as new
Hmm.
things come up, so we've gone with a small committee between marketing and sales. We will be introducing finance, because finance obviously plays a huge role
Mm,
into the information that they
it's
also
true.
need to see. So as a phase two, we'll be adding finance to the team, and they'll be able to add some of their information. And the team meets on a regular basis. The third tab is really a work in progress. What has come up, what's open, what needs to be defined, and then moved into the actual dictionary itself.
Right. I like
hmm
that. And at
hmm
least everyone's there on the same page. And if you invite finance, maybe they can buy lunch, you know?
That's what we're hoping.
You can come, but bring your checkbook when you do.
Make sure you bring some pizza. Yeah,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, every new department that comes to this meeting always brings pizza. Wink,
everyone.
wink. Yeah.
Yes. Uh-huh.
Oh man,
Well,
that's
how do
great.
you guys track lead source then, if you were just talking about this conversation 5 minutes ago?
Sure, sure, sure. Well, a lot of it comes from, to get pseudo more technical. I really want to know that first, so we can go find more of them. I
hmm
get that there's a lot of people we've worked with in Pardot for 5 years or more, and so I really like your addition of the most recent, because does be, that's helpful. The
hmm
fact that we worked together like 5 years ago as a lead source. More recently, we're using campaigns, and
Yep.
big fan of Pardot and the connected campaigns to be able to tag everything. But I think
hmm
the trouble with connected campaigns is you can tag everything, and then are you actually doing anything with that information? So
Exactly.
yeah, just kind of going back to, I like to say, the first thing first. At least if we can nail first touch, then we can start rolling the rest of it out to
Yep.
understand what other touches were effective.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, yeah. Wow. um have you done much with the multi-touch side? Done any?
Nope, not yet. We
Yeah.
are we just got B2B analytics, the reporting platform, and we are looking forward to we just turned connected campaigns on as well. So we're
Nice.
really looking forward to being able to understand and start learning and seeing, first touch, last touch, multi-touch, or linear, however you want to, whatever word you want to use to apply that
Sure.
to it, to be able to see the different variations, and then start to predict, maybe if we are looking at linear touches, how many touches does it take to have a better qualified lead, a lead that's going to convert, a lead that's going to turn into an opportunity. And if we can start to predict that,
Yeah.
and model that, then we can start to really target people in that way and say if it takes 2 webcasts and then an in-person event, we can really focus on those areas.
Right. Right. Makes sense. I think it's one of those areas that in the past we didn't really have the tech to do it. So it's kind
No.
of witchcraft.
Yep.
But I definitely get the sense now that we're going to be accumulating this data, and it'll be interesting to see the options we have available to really analyze that information.
Yeah.
And have you seen much on the AI side or any of that kind of tech?
So we've had a couple forays into that. We have a couple Organizationally, we have a couple projects around artificial intelligence and machine learning. I mean, we are a software company, so we're always trying to
Sure.
optimize our own software
Yeah.
for our customers. I mean, obviously, we put the customer first, so we want to make it better for them and
Yeah.
make their lives easier. So we want to also leverage tools within the vendors that we use in our technology stack.
Of course.
Um, we haven't really had an opportunity to do it yet. We just turned Einstein on for Pardot
Mm-hmm.
um, this week, actually. So I think over the next couple of months, it'll be interesting to see what kind of information is available. We're looking at a couple of different tools outside of that kind of outside the world of Salesforce to see what
Say
kind
it's
of
not so. Is that
it
even
is.
allowed? Are
It
you allowed to
is.
do
It
that?
is. Yeah,
Do
it's
you get special permission from your government to be able to?
very, very robust technology stack, and looking at what kind of information we can get to start to run those kind of predictive
Mm-hmm.
modeling to see, you know, if this works, if that doesn't work, and if this is working, how do we double down on it? How do we accelerate it? How do we do it at scale? That kind of thing.
Yeah, I'm really excited for that side because I think I can totally envision human does crazy things, comes up with crazy ideas, connects dots,
Hmm.
throws different marketing concepts at willing unwilling victim, aka
Yeah.
prospect, and then computer goes, okay, you probably want to stop doing that. They're unsubscribing, and this other thing, actually, they're all buying when you do that. So do more of this
Do more of that.
combination. Yeah,
Yes.
in fact,
And
I'll take care of it for you. Let me send the emails.
I mean, as we start thinking about, I mean, we're consumers, so
Yeah,
I actually like it when I am on a site and they're serving up recommendations based on searches or previous browsing history. It
right.
makes my life easier because it feels like they know me a little better. Amazon's great for that. Some people don't like it, they think it's spying. I
Mm-hmm.
think it's really just a personal preference. But as we get into more personalized experiences, especially in the B2B space, being able to connect with the people that are trying to do that research,
Mm-hmm.
do it again quickly. Nobody has any time, so they want to see it as quickly as possible. Show me what my pain points are, that you understand me as a potential customer, and that you have a solution that's going to meet my needs. And being able to leverage the technology and the artificial intelligence to then serve up a better personalized experience, I think is it's going to go, it's groundbreaking. I would love to talk to anybody who's actually done this kind of
Mm.
personalization before, because we haven't yet been able to crack that nut. Because
Yeah.
you need really to have really solid user journeys, really solid personas. You need to know where they are in the buying cycle. You need to have the content to be able to
Yeah,
serve to them, right? The content is still king. Words are
it
still
is.
important. So if you don't have all of that, having all that insight to say you should do this doesn't help you, because then you have nothing to talk to them about, really.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. I think sometimes people do that too with the multi-touch tracking as well. They're like, "Hey, let's set up this multi-touch thing." And you're like, "Wait a minute, you don't have any touches. Are you gonna multi-touch track thin air? Like, what's going on here? Let's get some nurturing going. Let's get some emails and some
Hmm.
webinars, and then let's examine the touches and see what we can get." It's a good point that it's not going to solve all the problems for you. You still need to be doing things, but it can maybe spot those trends that maybe are
It can.
too complex for us to pick out.
It can, and then definitely help to support those overall strategies so you're tracking in the right direction. And honestly, at the end of the day, from a marketing perspective, it's really about what are we adding to the bottom line of the business? How are we helping move the business forward? And how can we prove that? And being able
Right.
to use data to prove that we're actually impacting the bottom line and helping to drive sales and revenue growth is really king. And that's really the purpose of having all of this data and information, is to be able to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. To actually move that sale forward in the
Yeah.
end. Like that's what pays the bills, people. It's not impressions. Um,
It's
I
not?
no,
Are
I
you
know.
sure?
I know. You imagine that? Just trying as a joke in February or April Fools, like just trying some like old school marketing tactic on people. Just like,
Just here, we had a
uh,
million impressions. We're good for the year. Wrap it up.
yeah. Here's your invoice. We had 1 million impressions. I mean, I refreshed the browser myself a few times, but we'll be fine. You kind of reminded me of Facebook. For the longest time, has been showing me just generic ads, and I finally hacked it enough so that it shows me ads that I actually enjoy, and I don't feel like they're ads anymore. I'm like, ooh, that looks neat. It's like a bunch of hiking stuff and
Yep.
mountain climbing things. I end up
Do you hike?
yeah,
Oh,
for
wait,
sure.
didn't you climb a mountain?
I did a couple. Yeah, Kilimanjaro's coming up next though. That's in July.
Nice. Oh, that's this July. Okay.
Yeah.
So you're in the middle of your training then, I suppose.
Yeah, I've got like something. I've got like a little countdown on my phone that tells me how many days are left. And it's ominous because it keeps getting lower. I remember when it said like, "Oh, you got 200 and change," and now I have 178 left. So, in 9 hours and 10 minutes.
9 hours and 10 minutes. Now, are you doing that by yourself?
Yeah, I am flying out there by myself, but then we're gonna meet up with one of those climbing groups, and then we're gonna
Okay. All right. That's
do a little
exciting.
trek. Yeah. Maybe I'll carry a little Pardot flag up to the top or something and plant that.
Planted up there.
Yeah, there's this famous wooden sign on the Uhuru Peak that everyone stands in front of. So it'll be interesting to see what that's actually like.
Yep. That's
So
awesome.
yeah. So cool. I don't know where we went. I went on a tangent all about hiking.
That's
Do
all
you
right.
hike?
No, I don't hike. I
Okay.
do not hike.
I was gonna say, do you want to? I'm in about 178 days. I'm going on a mountain. If you want to come join me,
I'm good. But you
you're
have a
good.
good
You're
time.
like,
You
I'll
be
watch it.
safe.
I'll be on the safari down below watching. Like,
Yeah.
peace.
You
Yeah.
be safe. Yeah, exactly.
Well, this is crazy cool. Like, who are you? Like, tell me more about you. Like, how did you know you wanted to be a marketer? Take me back to like little Nicole days. Did
Little
you
Nicole
were you
days.
destined for marketing from the beginning, or tell me about it?
No, I was an art major in college, and I have a degree in fine art, specialized in photography.
And so,
And
if that was the medium, that was the one you preferred, would be the
yes,
photography side? Oh,
yes, yeah,
wow.
yeah. I had my freshman year at college. We did a semester of art history, and it was the Pantheon, and it was
Wow.
9,000 slides of the Pantheon and all of the different pieces and elements of the Pantheon. And I really hated that class.
Yeah,
Hated that class.
that's like a sleeper right there. You put it on those old
Yes.
school file projectors that like
Yeah,
goes
that's
through.
exactly what it was. That is
Was it?
exactly what it was.
Yeah, I
I'm
remember.
probably dating myself, but yes,
No, I'm with you.
that
People
is
listening are like,
exactly what it
"What's that
was.
mean?" No, it's the old, little had a fan going,
And
to keep the
the room
lamp
got
cool.
dark, so you could actually see the slide up on the, yes, in a room
Yeah,
full of 400 kids. Yes, it was, but that really kind of drove my area of interest away from really fine art to more of that photography kind of
yeah.
a focus. But yeah, so
So
not a marketing major at all.
there's some fantastic photos that can be had in Kilimanjaro, Tanzania.
I'm sure
I'll
there
just put
could
that
be.
out there for you. So, um, yeah, were you just taking photos from an early age? Is that what kind of?
Yes. Yeah. And then I graduated and I went to work for a small studio and was the studio manager.
Oh wow.
And they, retail stores do come and go. And I found myself out of a job.
Yep.
And nobody tells you in college that being a photographer, you don't really get a full-time job. It's job to
Right.
job and a lot of hustling. And I had bills and stuff. So I kind of begged my uncle for a job at his company, and I
Hmm.
started in the corporate world in human resources.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, with that old retail job, was that like Main Street somewhere? And like
Yeah,
yeah, exactly.
yeah.
Right. The store's here, now store's gone. Um,
It was in Pennsylvania. There was a
okay.
company called Strawbridge and Clothier, and it was that company, and they did go out of business. So it
Oh,
was one of those. It was kind of like a Macy's, but on a smaller scale.
gotcha.
Yeah.
And so you started in HR. What was that
So I
like?
started in HR. Boring.
Okay.
So boring. I wanted to shoot myself every day. So boring.
I'm not really a
Um,
fan either.
No, it's the same thing, Ed, kind of the same thing day in and day out. Not a lot of variation, not a lot of excitement. Moved from there into an IT role.
Hmm.
I'm really going to date myself now. They moved to Windows the very first version of Windows and Office,
Okay.
Microsoft Office, and the secretaries couldn't use the software. And so
Wow.
being in my early 20s, there is something to say for the younger generation. They definitely can pick up the software much quicker
Oh
than us
yeah.
old folks. But I was able to, really help them. And I actually moved into a role into IT. And from there, I moved into software application development. And,
Wow.
along the way, had some kids. And I ended up, sales enablement. I did
Yep.
some event management. I worked for some very large companies. I worked for some very small companies. And I finally landed here at Vertex about 8 years ago.
Wow.
And my team was basically a party of me. And I think
Wow.
the
It's
marketing,
a quiet party. Like,
it was a
hey
very
guys,
quiet
where's the party?
party.
It's like
It
you're
was
the
a
party.
very
Yeah.
quiet party. I think the whole marketing team was maybe only 6 or 7 people.
Wow.
Right now we have a team of 42 people
Jeez.
and slated, I think, to hit 45 by the end of this year. So it's definitely grown. The company's doing really well, growing leaps and bounds.
Wow. And then how many is that spread across the comm, like we're talking about comm and other different groups? Is it the
Yeah,
40 or
so we
so?
have a fairly traditional marketing setup. We have our
Sure.
brand group. We have our communications, which is internal and external.
Okay.
We have partner marketing. We have demand gen, and in there is digital marketing as well. We
Mm-hmm.
have customer marketing. We have product marketing, and then we have marketing ops.
Busy, but I love seeing that because that
Yep.
just means it's working, and so we're adding more so we can get more done
Yes.
in this department, as opposed to we've got one and we still have one and we can't get budget for anything. It's
Yep.
like, no,
Nope.
we're expanding, we're growing and building. That's awesome.
Yep. It's been very exciting. I mean, and the technology in the last 5 years. I mean,
Oh
uh,
yeah.
it's skyrocketed to the point where we can't even keep up with it. That's why that's the job. My shameless plug number 2 for the open rec that I have. But
Right.
yes, we need more help because the marketing function and the organization is demanding more,
Yep.
moving at a faster pace, and we just need some more help to make sure that we can keep up with it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's all
Of course.
exciting. It's fantastic. It's a fabulous, fabulous time to be working at this company.
Oh, for sure. Maybe you'll land a really smart, savvy photography major who is just really good with Martech.
Maybe.
Fingers crossed. But at least you wouldn't hold that against them. You'd be like,
Nope.
come, let's talk photos.
Actually, it's interesting. Let's see. My marketing analyst, my reporting analyst, he was a food and beverage, I want to say food and beverage guy in college.
Okay.
So like, you know, supply chain management.
Okay.
I want to say my website copy editor, CMS manager, was definitely not doing what she was doing in college. I don't think anybody that I have on my team right now had a marketing background except for my technology specialist.
Right. Right. It's one of those jobs that I think you benefit from having different, diverse
Hmm.
experiences. I mean, photography to sociology to whatever it might be, you kind of
Yep.
bring. I've even had people economics back, hey, bring in that
Yeah.
kind of math background to it, and I mean it's kind of like bring everyone in. We can use all of your talents and skills.
Yes, and honestly, I think having that diverse group, everybody has their own ideas. They bring
Mm,
freshness to the team. Not even just my core team, but the whole marketing function.
yeah.
Um, yeah, it's a really nice group of people to work with. It's I enjoy both the leaders that I work with as well as the people that are within the marketing function.
Yeah, we had that dinner that night and I just had a blast. Like
Yeah, that was
the
fun.
the
San
conversations.
Francisco is fantastic, though.
Well,
How could you
that
go
too.
wrong?
I know, but like somehow we got a great, spot. Shout out to Christina on that. And then it was fun. So I mean I was very envious. He was like, wow, you guys got it good here. This is fantastic.
Yep.
And just happy to be a part of that. It was really fun.
Yeah,
Um,
and thank you for picking up the check.
oh,
We appreciate
good.
that.
Yes,
Not
no
necessary,
worries.
but thank you.
Well, you kind of picked up the check, so it's all good.
I guess I guess so in the long run.
I guess so. Hey, we
I
can
guess
both
so.
pick it up. We split it 50-50. Question, as you think back to this like cool, crazy career, trying different things and finding out where your sweet spot, where you create so much value. If you could get back in a time machine, because I've got one, if you get in a time machine and go back to the beginning of your career, marketing or just in general career, you just graduated. What would you tell yourself? What would you advise yourself, knowing what you know, experience what you experienced?
I think the most important thing to remember are the lateral connections. Historically, marketing and sales not known to have the best relationship. And early on, if you put the time in to make sure that you're working outside of your group and not just being so siloed,
Mm,
um, it's going to help you in the long run, because as we move forward with these technologies that we've been talking about and looking at the data, it really becomes critical that you can have those conversations with people across the aisle, people in finance, people in sales, people in account services, people in customer support. Because if you're focused on the customer, then you need to make sure you understand what the customer pain points are,
right.
so that you can give them the information they need. Our whole customer marketing team is really focused on educating our customers and making sure they know what's going on, and you working on those lateral connections. It's not something I did when I was younger. I didn't
Hmm.
see the value in it. I was here to do my job, and I worked within my marketing group, and that was it. And now that I'm in the position I'm in, I really look at it and I encourage my team, go have lunch with somebody.
Mm,
Doesn't have to be in a meeting. Go take them out to lunch and say, hey, let me pick your brain. What's on the customer's mind these days? What's troubling them? Or go
yeah.
talk to sales and say, hey, what was the last sales meeting you had, and what were they talking to you about, and what are the prospects looking for? Because all of that information helps you do your job better.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes total sense. I'm taking them out to lunch, go get some
Hmm.
beers, get some coffee,
Yeah, exactly.
and learning from across the aisle, like you said,
Hmm.
not just, yeah, I mean, I know what you mean. Just you kind of the blinders on, you're like, I got to
Yep.
get my marketing project done.
Yep.
But you're to your point, you can make it so much more rich with all the different insights and
Hmm.
data points from everyone.
And everybody has a different perspective.
Yeah. Yeah. Any recommendations on how you talk to these other groups? You don't necessarily know their language. You don't know the finance language, or you don't know the language, but you want to know more about the customer. Like how do you approach it?
Well, I think it's a personality thing too,
Mm,
a little bit. If you're fairly chatty, you probably won't have a problem just reaching out and just saying, "Hey, can I even just sit and shadow you and listen to a customer call?" Right?
yeah.
And if you're not in the mindset of having a whole hour and asking questions, you could, just say, "Could I shadow and listen?" Or if it's a sales prep meeting, could I listen in the background just to what you talk to the potential prospect about? Um, that might help you start to pick up the lingo so that you can have that larger dialogue with them, and gives you a little bit of insight into their world, because then you can listen to how they're interacting with the person, and that might
Mm.
help you a little bit with picking up their language. I don't know what to do about finance. They're in the world all I don't know what to do, but they're all in a world unto themselves.
Right. Everyone else makes sense, and then they show up, and you're like, "Uh-oh, they're here.
Numbers, the numbers people.
They're here, guys."
Hmm.
Yeah, and the lingo, but picking up the lingo, I imagine that earns you some respect from these other groups too, when you're able to use the language they use when you're chatting with them on those, to your point, the bigger strategy meetings or conversations. You're like, more about what they're facing and their challenges. Very
Yep.
cool. Have you had time for photography outside of work these days, or?
A little bit, not too much, just
Sure.
because of where we are in our lives. We're just, kids in high school, constantly moving. So not too much. I would imagine when they're maybe a little bit older, out of the house, probably be able to pick that back up again, but
Yeah.
it's kind of busy right now.
Do you have a destination in mind? Would be like a great country to visit? Yeah.
Well, I'd love to go to Australia.
Yeah.
Um, France would be nice.
France. Now, have you been
Um,
to these places before? Or?
No,
Okay.
no, I went to Italy a few years ago. That was
Oh, beautiful.
beautiful.
Yeah.
I did photograph Italy. Um, we
What
were more in the
parts?
northern part. We were in Umbria, and we went to Venice and Rome. So I'd
Yeah.
like to go back and maybe do the coast. That would be, I think,
Yeah.
beautiful.
I
Yeah.
heard good things with the Amalfi Coast. Is like you got to check it out
Yeah.
and hit those places up. Oh, for
Greece.
sure.
I think Greece is right there too. If you're doing that neck of the woods, you could also just maybe hop over to Greece. That would be
Right.
nice. If my husband's listening, FYI.
FYI,
That
and
would be lovely.
I know he's listened this far because he cares, and he knows you're probably going to quiz him later on the content of the latter half of the
Exactly.
podcast. So shout out Greece and Italy. be fantastic. France. I actually just went to France recently.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, I'd never been. And, I kind of, with all the freedom fries things, you always hear people are rude in France. Um, and so didn't know what to expect. But when I got over there, it was complete like a 180. So I actually enjoyed it that much more because it was so much better than what you'd hear. Their branding could use some help because it was fantastic.
Well,
And
that's
I
awesome.
very quickly realized the priorities were like culture and
Mm-hmm.
food and wine, and I was like,
There's
sign me
nothing
up.
wrong with that.
Sign me up.
Yep, exactly.
And there's a business lunch I was able to join with some fantastic people, and it was like, we passed it to one person who was from the wine region, and he was like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, they're like, yeah, he's gonna pick the wine. So he's from, I think he's from Bordeaux, right? So
Okay.
oh, okay, cool, you can pick the wines.
Yeah,
So
that's awesome.
he picked that, and then it was so good. And the Eiffel Tower, much bigger than it looks in photos.
Really?
Huge, gigantic. In every other word that means large, like it really
Yep.
is substantial. And then in the photos, you're like, oh, that's cute, but it's like big.
Big.
And it's
Did
amazing.
you make it to Notre Dame?
We did, yeah. We walked over there, and it was cordoned off, but we kind of went back around to the back and found a back alleyway to get to more of the part that was exposed.
Yep.
And not as bad as the videos look. I mean, obviously the roof's
Okay.
probably toast and the insides, who knows? But the main superstructure still looked very strong and intact. I mean, they were putting wooden beams and replacements in there. So
Okay, so they are working to fix it.
yeah,
Oh, that's
yeah.
good.
So
Oh,
it
that's
was
good.
good to see that. Yeah. So yeah, France, huge on my list, way up there.
Yes,
I think
definitely
Paris
on
is
my
like
list.
the city. And
Definitely. London, I think, is also on the list, but I think I might be able to. We have an office in London. We have a marketing group that sits in London. So I'm hoping that at some point this year we'll be able to get over to that side of the pond and give them
yeah.
a visit and see the sights.
I was just thinking, I think you should probably bring some of this Agile methodology, and
To the London group?
I think London would really benefit. The productivity would increase and
I
all
think
these
it would,
things.
absolutely.
Yeah. So I think you need to do that. I think that's like a business critical, we should escalate that.
I think we should too.
Awesome. Well, let me know if I can,
Be of
sign
any
something,
assistance
or
getting me
be of
over there?
assistance. Yeah. Yeah. And let me know if you need some
I will.
consulting while you're over there, and then we'll just double down
Then we'll
on it.
all go and it'll be a party over there.
It will be a party over
A
there for
work
sure.
party, definitely.
Yeah. Work party. So yeah. Well, this has been fun. Where are some places people can connect with you if they want to just reach out and connect? And is LinkedIn a good place?
Yep, I'm on LinkedIn. Always follow up on our Vertex Inc. website.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, LinkedIn is probably the best place.
LinkedIn. And what about those folks that are like, I am the perfect marketer for you, the technologist? Do you want them to hit up Vertex Inc. or?
Yes, that would be perfect. If they are interested, they can apply for the job online, and I'll get the resume, and hopefully that we can make a connection.
Awesome. Yeah. You never know. Never know.
That would be great.
And when you do that, don't be a stranger and just send a note. Say, hey, I heard you on the
I will let you
podcast.
know.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, no, but I'm saying for people that contact you, I want them to make sure they say they heard you on the podcast, so you don't just get a LinkedIn request. It's like, come on, people, say where you met. So
Yep.
we need that lead source.
Yep. Exactly.
Oh man. Well, thank you so much for coming on here. I mean, I've learned a bunch. I've had a lot of fun, and I really appreciate it.
No, thank you for having me. This was fun.
Yeah, right. And like, I think you should probably even look into getting your own podcast one of these days here.
Yeah,
I don't
maybe.
know.
We'll see. We'll see. We'll see.
I know, right? So for those listening, if you learned something, and I know you did because I literally have 2 pages of notes over here
Oh my gosh.
from what I've learned. So share this with someone else. Be a thought leader to one person, 2 people. Just get this in someone else's hands, a fellow marketer that you know. Put it on your network so that they can learn from Nicole like I have, and I know you have. And we can make that happen. So thank you again, Nicole. This has been so much fun.
No, thank you so much.
Absolutely. And for those listening, this has been the Hardcore Marketing Show. We will catch you all next time. All right. A big thank you to today's sponsors. Cheshire Impact, helping marketers and sales win, maximizing the use of Pardot and Salesforce. And a big thank you to qualified.com, the #1 live chat and chatbot platform for Salesforce and Pardot. Remember the giveaway. If you have Salesforce Pardot and you want a free copy of my book, Marketing Automation Unleashed, then you go over to qualified.com, engage in a chat, do a demo, and tell them that Casey sent you, and that book will be on its way to your door. All right. We'll see you all in the next one.